This is Pink Panther's new music video. Anything catching your eye? It must be the nostalgic aesthetic. Everyone on the comment section seemed to like it, and I can see why. Something about it just exudes joy. If you agree with this statement, then you are in for a treat, because I will go over more popular aesthetics from the same time period that have gone extinct. By the way, the aesthetic from the music video has a name, Frutiger Metro. We are going to talk about it in more detail soon. But first, let's go over UrBling is what you would see in Skate, Need for Speed and many other games from that time. A lot of entertainment directed at boys use this, since it looks cool, with its spray paint texts and texts city backdrops. Whereas today's designs are simplified to the brim, these designs feel very complex. Like there's so many things to look at. They often had high contrast, perhaps to make it feel bold and to stand out. But it wasn't just in games. Here are album covers too. I think the reason this aesthetic faded away over time is because everyone sort of just gravitated towards more natural colors. Windows XP, Pineapple, cell phones, PlayStation 2 startup. Those are all things that I associate with Cybercore. Weird 3D renders is Cybercore's main foundation, as well as these sci-fi fonts and lens flares. A year ago I stumbled across this Jungle DNB music playlist. It used these images to go along with the music and I found them very interesting from the day one. It's also very nice to know that this aesthetic has a name. I think the reason it went away, for one, is that CGI got better. Secondly, maybe the sci-fi feel just didn't feel as cool and innovative after a while, and we just started preferring styles that are easier to understand. Frutiger Metro and Aero go for the more colorful, futuristic, funny shapes vibe. The difference between these two is that one is 3D and the other one is 2D. Our beloved Windows 8 app menu is a good example of Frutiger Metro, and for Frutiger Aero it's Windows 7's default wallpaper. I still get very nostalgic for those elementary school PC classes we had by looking at this middle Windows logo with all the animals inside of it. A lot of these Utopia type buildings also have the Frutiger Aero written all over them. I can't think of any good reason why we got rid of this aesthetic, other than it just got old. I also think that when something is simple, you don't get tired of it as easily, but when something is like in your face, maybe you're more likely to start disliking it. I know I said I was gonna go over 2000s aesthetics a lot, but forget about it. Let's go back to the 20s. Only OGs remember this one. Even though we all see this quite often, especially in the buildings, it has gone extinct, thankfully. While it's nice to have like historic buildings, because they're like visiting the past, I still prefer the futuristic and shiny buildings. Art Deco is also shown elsewhere. Fashion, art, furniture, elevator doors. I don't like this either, except maybe the fashion. Because I have a theory, which is that if everyone wore suits and dresses, people's behavior would change a lot. Think about it. You don't want to do anything dumb while wearing a suit. You need to act distinguished and cultured. The things you wear give you identity, and that makes you think different. The art doesn't seem to differ too much from the stuff we found from ancient Egypt. It's very two-dimensional, and the furniture is pretty cool. Okay. Now we're just like totally going off the rails here. This isn't what the video is about, but this is way more interesting, okay? Check this out. I don't think these have gone extinct because they were never mainstream, I don't think. The first one is Vaporwave. You already know what song to play. Vaporwave usually consists of dated CGI and almost always used with magenta, dark blue, light blue and yellow. This aesthetic is made for jokes apparently. Even though I've heard the word many times, there isn't that much about it in Google Images. I feel like what Vaporwave means as an aesthetic is very broad, so let me take this moment to talk about 80s and 90s aesthetic. Thanks. I feel like GTA Vice City captures it well. I find it mad that they released a game that takes place in 86 in 2002, those being 16 years apart. Which means that it would be like if someone released a game today that took place in 2007. Actually, I think it would make a lot of sense, because then they could include these aesthetics. Wow. Funny thing about this game is that I don't like playing it, because when I do I realize that it's just a 21-year-old video game, where there isn't that much to do. So instead I just like imagining myself in Vice City, because my imagination does a lot better job. Sometimes Simpsons, and I guess all the other cartoons as well, capture this vibe well. Especially when it's sunset or night. What about those weird images where there's like Bart driving a car high or crying? We need to find a way to purge those images from the internet, okay? I also AI generated some images that I felt like that could work, but yeah, just take a look at them. There's something very odd about this image. Point being, if I had to choose up the whole world with one of these aesthetics for a day, it would be this one. Anything that consists of normal everyday things, but they have been transformed into something impossible. The colors are also sometimes pretty colorful, like type of colors you remember from your childhood. But other times they're surprisingly bland. I'm sure this reminds all of us from the liminal spaces photos from a couple of years ago. Looking back at this video, you've now witnessed this masterpiece. What do you think about this aesthetics? Well, you wanna know what I think? The present aesthetics are a lot better. The new Pringles logo really pushing the right buttons in my brain right now, like, it's so good. Looking at it just gives me hope for the future. This doesn't have a name yet, so I'm gonna come up with one. Flatcore. Another one, which is pretty popular right now, is called Glassmorphism. This is what you would see in Windows 11 and Mac OS. It uses gradient colors and circular edges. Yeah, thanks for watching. By the way, I used the aesthetics wiki when I made this video to find this more easily. Their site was a big help, go check it out if you want. I didn't read their descriptions all too much about the aesthetics. I just looked at the images they had provided and came up with my own ideas. So everything you heard here might not go along with how they think, but I think I did a pretty good job. Also, if you Google UrBling, you're not gonna see that many results, which means that we need to start using these names more. Okay, so they become more established.